I don't know why Derek's like yelling at me from the other room, like he doesn't know I'm on my. Like, it's like, hey, Mom, aren't you coming to like do something for me? I'm like, nope, you missed that when you slept till 8 o'clock, dude. All right, so I do have a cool video for us today. We might have to split it up into 2 days. I'm not 100% sure. It just depends on if we get about like halfway through it. It's about 45 minutes. So I would think that we're probably going to split it up so we can actually talk about it and not have to just like watch it all today and then talk about it tomorrow. I'd really like to split it up, I think. But it is a continuation of the Miracle Morning. I finally found one from How that I was like, okay, this is actually like updated. All the ones I kept finding were like 10 years old. And I was like, no, I really want something that's more about where he's at now. And so I did find one, and it wasn't like some of his videos were like an hour and a half long. I was like, dude, that's like really, really long. And we're gonna see what they did. Oh my gosh, yes, Ellen, yes! Oh, I love you. I'm so freaking glad you just said that. Ha, you guys thought you were getting off. You thought you were getting off. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so everybody in the chat box, if you have time today, I want everybody to post something that happened positive this morning. For me, I'm gonna go ahead and type mine. Obviously, it's Alicia going diamond for me. So that was super excited to get that status. So make sure you guys pop something in the chat that something that positive that happened today. Already, it has to be something that already happened this morning. Since you opened your eyes to now, what's something positive that has happened? I'm typing mine right now. Ooh, 4.5 mile walk, dang. Oh, last week of the work, how exciting. Finished college, homework. Yeah. Ellen, what are you going to school for? I have to type that, I'm curious. Or I think you said that you were a teacher. Maybe you're continuing your education with that. Derek Michael, you're gonna have to find it. I just heard what he said. He goes, Mom, you're gonna have to help me find the remote. No. Okay, get your bachelor's. Awesome. I'm sleeping my crowns about it. Oh no. Tell Teddy thank you. Thank you, Teddy. Oh, I love this. This is cool. Okay, continue putting them over there. Make sure you guys, one positive thing that has happened today. One positive thing. While I pull this video up. See, this is what I need about you guys. I can't remember everything I say. I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm not kidding, but yeah, Tessa got that 4:30 a.m. workout. Oh, dude, that's the best, Alicia. You're like, not only did I get this done, but you fell back asleep so I can like go shower afterwards. That's the best. Oh my God, Ellen, I didn't hit snooze this morning either. I literally thought about it as soon as my alarm went off, and I even set my alarm for 6:30. I was like, do not set that 6:45. I was like, you need to start working yourself back to where you wanted to be. And so I set it for 6:30, and I got up at 6:30. It was so exciting. No snooze. Yeah. Hey, dude. How are you?
Good.
You need the remote?
No, I need your help. I got the time remote.
Oh.
But I am coming.
Oh, well, you know what? We're about to do a video, and I'll come help you find the remote. Okay? Somebody just woke up. Okay, let me find out which one this is. It is this.
The coffee.
Okay. I said, hold on a second, please.
What's this?
Oh, just hold on. Okay, let me screen share. Go ahead and put those. I did snooze it. Yeah, there you go. Alicia, I used to do that. I used to set my alarm like in the other room. So that way I would have to go get it. That's such a good idea. You know what, then I started doing this like really bad, like where I would turn it off and then I would just like go lay back in bed. That's terrible. Don't do that. Pause. Stop playing. Okay, there we go.
I was trying to see if I had fun, and I thought I changed on my on the
Yeah, you can. I'm actually not using. Just don't turn the TV on too. You can have my phone.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Wait, how are you not using your internet?
Well, I'm using the Wi-Fi, but if you're not going
Oh, you're using your Wi-Fi on the TV?
Yeah. So don't turn the
Oh,
TV on.
Oh, so that's why it won't turn on.
That's right. Can't share. Can't share the Wi-Fi. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work, Sam.
No. But you can have my phone. Be good. Don't watch anything bad.
Okay, I'll watch good
Okay.
on YouTube.
Thank you. All right, guys. So I love this guy. He always does like interviews. His name is like Tom. I don't know how you say his last name, but I think we've even watched him interview a couple other people before. But he does kind of like talk show host interviews. But he does one with Hal, and it was just like a year ago. So it's a lot more updated on like where Hal is in life. And I definitely think that it's going to be something that we're going to really enjoy. So I'm excited to listen to this. So get out your notebooks and let's see what they have to say.
Enjoyed this episode, and today it's brought to you by our friends at Wix.
We all want to fulfill our potential, and sadly most people don't. And I believe that it's because this is what we want in our lives. This is who we are.
Hey everybody, welcome to Impact Theory. Our goal with this show and company is to introduce you to the people and ideas that will help you actually execute on your dreams. All right, today's guest is the best-selling author of Miracle Morning and one of the highest-rated keynote speakers in America. His book has sold more than 600,000 copies worldwide, has been translated into 27 languages, and his teachings are being practiced by more than 500,000 people daily in more than 70 countries. But all of that almost never happened. At the age of 20, he was involved in a catastrophic drunk driving accident that was so violent it ripped his car in half and actually took his life. His heart stopped beating for a full 6 minutes, and over the next week, as he lay in a coma, he died 2 more times. After 7 surgeries in just 6 days to repair the extensive damage he sustained, including 11 broken bones, he finally stabilized, but doctors warned that he may never walk again. But not only did he walk again, through sheer force of will, he ended up running a 52-mile ultra marathon and recovering fully. But just as everything in his life were finally humming along, he found himself near death once again. This time, it was a very rare, very aggressive form of cancer that took him from symptom-free to the verge of multiple organ failure in just days. He immediately began a brutal chemotherapy regimen and once again, through discipline of thought and action, saw his way through and back to health. But just surviving is not his mission. He wants to help others thrive as well. And his unique ability to teach the lessons he's learned are allowing him to do just that. So please, help me in welcoming the man whose book has over 2,000 5-star reviews on Amazon, the Hall of Fame business achiever, Hal Elrod.
How you doing, man?
Good to see you, Tom.
Yeah, you as well, dude.
Very excited to sit down and talk. And what's crazy is even all the madness that I talked about in the intro, I didn't get to cover one of the crazier parts, which was what happened when the economy went bust in 2008. You lost like half of your income and had to fight your way back from that.
Yeah.
And I want to understand, like, the thing that really seems incredible about you is your ability to regulate your emotions, to get back on track, and to keep pushing forward. So what was that like in that moment? You said that you were depressed or close to depression. How did you restabilize?
So I was 20 when I had the car accident. And a year and a half before that, I had started a career in direct sales. And I learned something in my training from my manager called the 5-minute rule. And he said that when you're out there in the field, you're going to have disappointment, you're going to have rejection, you're going to set a goal for the week, you're not going to hit it, you're going to hit it, and then have the order cancel. Like, he's like, you're going to deal with a lot of stuff. It's a microcosm for life. And he taught us what he calls the 5-minute rule. He said, so when things go wrong, we have a rule. It's okay to be negative, but not for more than 5 minutes. You give yourself 5 minutes, set your timer on your phone. He would literally teach us, set the timer. You get 5 minutes to bitch, moan, complain, cry, vent, punch a wall, whatever. And after 5 minutes, you take a deep breath and say 3 really powerful words. Can't change it. And it's simply an acknowledgement that I can't change what's already happened. So there's no value in wishing it were different. And essentially I learned through reading Eckhart Tolle and things through years after that every negative emotion that we have is self-created by the degree of resistance that we have to our reality, whether it's a past reality, whether it's happening right now, or whether it's even a projected future reality that we're afraid of. And so in the span of 5 minutes, I woke up, I was told I would never walk again. I had 11 broken bones, permanent brain damage, and I went, well, can't change it. And the doctors thought I was delusional because I was so happy. I told my dad, I said, Dad, there's 2 possibilities. Number 1, the doctors are right and I'll never walk again. And I said, and I've already decided, I've imagined that possibility. Okay, I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life. I promise, Dad, because my parents were concerned, the doctors were concerned. I said, I promise I'll be the happiest person you've ever seen in a wheelchair. Because I'm in a wheelchair either way. I'll be happy, I'll be grateful. Why be miserable just because that's my unchangeable circumstance? And I said, the possibility number 2 is I will walk again. And I don't even know if it's possible, but I do know that that's what I want. So I've accepted the worst case scenario. I'm at peace with it. And all of my energy is going into walking again. I think about it every day. I visualize it. I pray about it. I talk about it, imagine it. And a week later, the doctors came in with routine x-rays. And they said, we don't know how to explain this, but your body is healing so quickly. We're going to let you take your first step tomorrow. And that was 3 weeks after the accident. It went from like never walking again. I'm thinking maybe like in a year, not in 3 weeks. And then I took my first step the next day. So I share that kind of backstory because every adversity that I've had since then, I'm able to leverage the lesson of, hey, if I can't change it, the only intelligent choice I have if I want to be happy is to accept it. 2008 was hard. It was actually harder for me to deal with than the car accident. And I think the reason is the car accident was the worst thing I'd imagine happening to me happen. And then it could only really get better from there. Like I was in the hospital, I woke up from a coma. It's like, okay, I'm going to heal over time, right? With the economy, when it crashed, it's like I lost a couple clients. I'm delusional, first of all, right? Like there's a fine line between optimism and delusion. You probably cross it too sometimes, right? But I would, people be like, you're really worried about the economy? I go, I create my own economy. I don't watch the news. I don't pay attention to it, right? And I guess it was, I'm losing client after client after client after client because they were affected by the economy. They couldn't pay me. And after I lost my first client, I went, oh man, can't change it. 5-minute rule. All right. That's a bummer, man. I've never lost a client. And then within a matter of weeks, I lost, or about a month, I lost half of my client, half of my income, couldn't pay the mortgage. And so I got really scared and really depressed. Like the can't change it thing wasn't work because it just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, like this downward spiral. So yeah, and that's when I did some Google searching. I was just simply trying to figure out what are the world's most successful people doing that I'm not doing. And I kept coming across morning rituals and morning routines, but I went, I'm not a morning person. Like, what else do they do? Like, where's the night owl, like, success plan, right? And I finally saw one, I don't remember the headline, but it caught my attention, and I went, I got to read this. And I dove in, and this was 2007, so morning rituals now are, everybody talks about them, they're all over the place. They weren't quite as prevalent. And I realized that it was the one thing that most of the world's most successful people had in common. And then I went, okay, I'm going to wake up an hour earlier tomorrow and start a morning ritual. Then the question was, what am I going to do during that hour to really maximize it? I want it to be the ultimate morning ritual. So I ended up continuing down my Google searching and came up with 6. It was meditation, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and journaling. And I went, which of these is the one thing I should do? Which is the best? Which is going to change my life the fastest? And the epiphany happened when I went, what if I did all of these? What if I woke up tomorrow, I did the 6 most timeless, scientifically proven personal development practices in the history of the world that, for centuries they've been working for people. And the next morning I woke up, even though I wasn't a morning person, did all 6, and I went from being depressed and scared to like my mental and emotional, I was at a peak. I went, wow, if I start every day like this, it's only a matter of time. And it was less than 2 months that I doubled my income, decided to run that ultra marathon that you'd mentioned. And it felt like a miracle. I told my wife, I said, sweetie, this is like a miracle. She's like, it's like your miracle morning. I go, yeah, it's my miracle morning. So I started writing my schedule as my miracle morning. It was never a book idea. And the light bulb went off that I went, well, if this is changing my life and I wasn't a morning person, and it's changing all of my clients' lives and none of them were morning people, this could change the world. Like, I have a responsibility to get this message out there.
No, man, it's such an extraordinary story. When you were telling that, you said something that really caught my attention, and that's the duality of, I accept that I can't change it, and there's something that I really, really want. So maybe I'm never going to walk again, and I can come to peace with that. But over here, I'm thinking, I'm praying, I'm visualizing about getting up and walking. Mm-hmm. And I know that you've used that in other places in your life. How do you maintain that duality? How do you talk about that to other people? Because to me, I've always told people you have to be able to hold 2 conflicting ideas in your head. Like, it is, and I don't remember where I heard this, but that one of the hallmarks of real success is the ability to do that. And hearing you talk about it when the stakes are as high as I may never walk again was the first time I heard somebody that had that much on the line talk about the duality. Tell me a little bit more about that and how you manage that.
Yeah, and you mentioned how do I talk about that or teach it, right? Like when I'm brought in, every keynote that I give is the miracle morning. It's always like a CEO that read the book and he's like, you gotta come teach our sales team or our staff or whatever, right? So that's why I'm brought in. For 10 years as a keynote speaker, I was telling my accident story and teaching this lesson of the power of accepting what you can't change and giving yourself the gift of emotional, what I call it emotional invincibility, right? And it's where you're invincible from any emotions controlling you, and you're in control of your emotions. And so I talked about how what you said, the duality, where the more we want something, usually the more disappointed we are when we don't get it, right? And, or devastated, right? The more we want it, right? It's that spectrum of, if you really are like, you want it more than anything in the world, and if you don't get it, you're devastated, you're suicidal. I mean, you're right. And so I think that for me, it takes practice. Now we say this to the audience. They go, how many of you think this is really a powerful idea? It makes a lot of sense, but it's easier said than done. And everybody's hand goes up like, yeah, this is crazy, right? I get it, but I can't do that. And it's because we're not addicted, but we've programmed ourselves over our entire lives. The way we respond to adversity is the way we respond to adversity, right? So for example, traffic is usually a low level of adversity. If you're running late and you leave late because you woke up late or kids were whatever it was, you hit traffic. What's the response normally?
Frustration.
I'm stressed, I'm frustrated, right? And we literally spend the entire drive. So let's say it's normally a 30-minute drive to work and it takes us 45 or whatever because of traffic. You live in LA, right? You know it better than anybody. But we spend that entire 45 minutes literally killing ourselves, right? Being that we're stressed out, we're tense, we're frustrated, we're riding the car in front of us. Like, does that work? That doesn't move them, right? And I realized that, so people think, well, I'm upset because of this thing. We always have something to point to. Of course I'm angry. Look at what she did. Of course I'm sad. Look at what I lost. Of course I'm frustrated. I need to be at work in half an hour and this is going to take me 45 minutes, right? We think it's the thing. We always point at the thing. And when I realized it's never the thing, it's our resistance to the thing. So when I was like anybody, I hit traffic and I'd be frustrated or upset or, mad at myself that I left late or mad at the person that made me late or whatever. And then I went, wait a minute. I actually used to have these wristbands that said can't change it that I used to give out to high school students after my speeches. And I'd be driving and I'd see my wristband and I'd go, oh yeah, wait, this applies, I can't change traffic. I would take a deep breath and I would just go, I'm going to enjoy the ride. And I would turn the radio on and enjoy. And so all of a sudden, traffic had zero control over my emotional state. And so whether it's traffic or it's being in a horrific car accident, we are completely in control of our emotional state. And the key that unlocks the door to emotional invincibility, if you will, is acceptance. It's accepting it. And so let me wrap this up answering your question of how do you get there. For me, it was logic. I went, okay, I can't change that I was in a car accident. It's kind of like what I said with the wheelchair thing, right? So if I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life, I can either be miserable in a wheelchair and blame the wheelchair and the drunk driver and the car accident and all that. That's why I'm miserable, right? The victim mentality. I thought, that's no quality of life. And so I think for any of us, we go, well, yeah, I don't want to be stressed out in traffic. So virtually the only choice we have, if we don't want to be stressed out or depressed or, and I'm not talking clinical depression, that's a different state, but, right, is to accept our circumstances unconditionally. That's where I call it emotional invincibility. That's where when you get to that point of where you've accepted everything that's ever going to happen to you and you've made peace with it before it even happens. When it happens, you're like, oh, okay, this sucks. Worst thing that I could ever imagine, but I can't change it. So I'm not going to, problems are difficult enough to move through and overcome. Why add emotional turmoil to those problems? It doesn't help you get through the problem. In fact, it simply makes it harder. It takes longer, or it prevents you from solving the problem altogether because you're so emotionally engaged in it. You can't see, the sunshine through the clouds.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. And I think having that emotional resilience is life-changing. Now, you said something that I think is really powerful, and that is when you're dealing with people that really want something, it's the thing they want most in life, or they're about to lose something, and it's the thing that they're most terrified about losing. What do you say about still allowing yourself to want something, believe in it, even though the more you invest in getting it, the more you think about it, people can feel like the farther I'm going to fall. Like the more people I tell I'm doing this, the more people I potentially embarrass myself in front of when it doesn't happen. How do you help them deal with that potential fear of embarrassment or failure or just outright disappointment?
I think that if you go to the age-old adage, everything happens for a reason. I believe that's true, but not the way that we've been taught or conditioned to think, right? Usually most people, that's used in a circumstance where something terrible happens, right? You lose something, or right, everything happens for a reason. It's going to be okay. You're like, screw you and your reason. So to me, because people think it's predetermined, right? Or they look up to the heavens and they're like, why did this, what did I do to deserve this, right? Like they're searching for a reason outside of themselves. And it's really just perpetuating the victim mindset versus, I believe that everything happens for a reason, but it's 100% our responsibility to choose the reason. And so I think that if you can go into any endeavor pursuing it, knowing that if I fail at this, and on a side note, the book Failing Forward by John Maxwell, I don't know if you've read that, right? But that was a huge game changer for me, where I went, almost every successful person failed at something that they really worked hard for, they were striving for, they might have committed their entire life to, and then they failed, and then they learned and grew from it if they chose to do so, and then they achieved something even better, right? Every relationship that ends creates a space for a new relationship, right? Every venture that comes to a screeching halt creates space for a new venture. So I'm not saying that it's easy and you might need the 5-minute rule, and if you need 5 days to and by the way, I don't think negative emotions, like you call them negative, I don't think they're negative, meaning there's value in all emotions. If I were to lose a loved one, I would grieve, and I think it's healthy to grieve, right? If a man accosted my wife, I'd probably pull anger out of my pocket and get a little, right? So there's definitely value, I believe, in all emotions, but the difference is whether the emotions are controlling the person, right? Because they think they don't understand, they think it's the thing that's causing the anger, and because of the thing that's out of their control, the anger's out of their control, right? So I think that once you take full responsibility for your emotional state, no matter what's going on around you, it's always about what's going on inside of you.
Yeah, I really like what you said about things like that. One, being a choice, and two, that you're creating space rather than that, the ending of a relationship means that you're going to have another relationship, which is not always the case. But it does create the space for you now to act in accordance with what you want, to get something new and different. But then what you were saying about looking outside yourself, looking to the heavens, why did this happen to me? It's a pretty strong impulse. And I have to say, in hearing your story, I was like, I might have thrown up a "why is this happening to me" when you got diagnosed with cancer. It'd be one thing if you lived like if you're doing a bunch of drugs, you're smoking, eating terribly, but you weren't. You had, if I remember right, read a book about how to eat for anti-cancer benefits and had been doing that for years when you were diagnosed with cancer. Why didn't you say, "Why is this happening to me"?
I mean, I definitely said that, but with a smile on my face. I was like, God, what in the heck am I supposed to learn? Like, I already died. I had my big life-altering thing. What could I possibly learn from another one? And a lot, ended up being the thing. But I will tell you this, there was no emotional pain. In fact, so I was diagnosed.
Because you had accepted life before it happened. Is that what you're talking
Exactly, yes. And to be fair, like I have a new book coming out and I talk about this a lot. There's a whole chapter called Emotional Mentability. And I talk about this and I say, look, I had an unfair advantage in that I had, like for a major, the cancer thing, because I was able to look back and go, the car accident was the best thing that ever happened to me because of who I became by overcoming it, right? By moving through it with a positive attitude and all of that. And also it became my life's work.
Talk to me about fear. Like I have from an emotional standpoint, I will put myself in the almost emotionally invulnerable, invincible position. Like I've spent an inordinate amount of time on that.
Yeah.
But I would have to process through some real fear, even if it was just, okay, now what happens to my wife? What happens to my family? So how did you deal with that?
Here's an important piece of this is when it comes to accepting all things that you can't change, death is one of those things. So I made peace with death a long time ago. And I think that death is a big fear for all of us. And to me, I've gotten to the point where I realize it doesn't even make sense for that to be a fear. For anything that's inevitable or that you can't change, right? That there's no point in resisting it and wishing it weren't going to happen. And the way that I look at death is it's the other side of birth. And we don't fear birth, right? But birth and death are both just as inevitable, and they're two sides of the same coin that is life, right?
But that's the one thing I've heard you say where I was like, and I'll say why. Birth gives, death takes, or such is my perception right now. And maybe you're about to give me a breakthrough, and I'm so fucking open to that you can't imagine. Yeah. But like the thing that I really want to understand, like how you've dealt with it internally, is that and maybe I'm packaging it wrong when I say it out loud, but that sense of I want something so badly, and thusly I am terrified to lose it. And the wanting is so powerful and so important and so beautiful that I know I don't want to give that up, but yet it creates the fear. It is like the old Buddhist notion of life is suffering because you want things and you may not get them, because you want things, you may lose them. Like the love for a child, I imagine, I'm not a parent, I imagine is transformatively profound, but it fucking sucks you in, dude. And it gets you to the point where now, like right now, I'm not afraid to die except for my wife. Legitimately, for myself, whatever. Like I won't say that I'm not bothered, but it's like not a grand fear of mine. Even though I talk a lot about living forever, that's me moving towards something, not away from. I'm not moving away from death. I'm moving towards the things I would be able to do if I could live forever. But dude, the thought of having kids or the thought of leaving my wife behind, that shit makes me emotional. Yeah. And so I really want to know, like, how did you process through that? Because in there somewhere is a breakthrough for me, if nobody else.
Yeah. So that was the hardest thing. Like I said, because I've made peace with death, I was imagining my wife and my kids losing me, and especially my kids. Like the most important thing in my world, in my life, is that I can influence my children in a positive way to set them up for a great life, right? And so that I might not have that opportunity was the hardest thing to deal with. I think that part of it is I didn't spend a lot of time on thinking about that, right? So that's the thing, is people that have a lot of fear, you're thinking about the things that you're afraid of, right? You don't have the fear of, if you're not thinking, right? If you're not thinking about the thing you're afraid of, but as soon as you think about it, the fear comes up. So for me, I use affirmations a lot too. That's one of the Miracle Morning practices is affirmations. And affirmations, I think, have a kind of a bad rap, like Stuart Smalley, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and people like me. And then they're taught by like a lot of self-help pioneers is like, lie to yourself. If you want to be a millionaire, just say, I am a millionaire over and over and over until you believe it, right? But if we know the truth, you're like, I'm a millionaire, your brain's like, dude, no, you're not, right? You're like, shut up, I'm doing my affirmations, right? Like, so the point is, the way that I view affirmations is they simply direct your focus on wherever you want your focus directed. So you can literally, like a computer program, you can go, okay, what are the beliefs that I want to focus on so they expand inside of me? Even the thoughts that I want to focus on. What are my values? What are the behaviors that I need to embody, right? So you read these affirmations every day and you're programming yourself to live in alignment with that program that you've designed, right? So I had my anti-cancer affirmations, which I still have. I use those to manage my mindset, right? So if I have a fear, I will look at what's the opposite of the fear, what's possible. So I could die, yes. Does focusing on that I might die and dwelling on that, and right, and thinking about that and going down that rabbit hole. And most people live with their fear. That's where their focus is. So they're consumed by fear. Right? For me, I go, oh yeah, this could happen, and that's not what I want to happen. So I'm going to accept it, make peace with it, and then I'm going to put all of my energy into what I want. And affirmations to me are the best way to do that, because if we leave our brain up to whatever it's up to, dude, it's like it's like a pinball bouncing around. It's like negative thought, positive thought, negative thought, negative, right? And so we can't trust our brain, until we've conditioned it, right? But so if someone's consumed with fear, right, utilizing affirmations every day that you combat the fear.
Give me the examples of your anti-cancer affirmations. I think there's statistically, sadly, a lot of people watching this that are battling cancer right now, and it might be particularly useful.
Before I share that, I want to say, because for people battling cancer, I want to share what I did that's different than most. So like you said, I had watched a documentary called Healing Cancer from the Inside Out, like, I don't know, 5 or 10 years before I got cancer, and I lived an anti-cancer lifestyle. So yeah, I was like, how am I getting cancer? I eat like a plant-based diet. I don't understand. So I went to my oncologist when I was diagnosed, and my lung was collapsed, my kidneys were failing, and my heart was on the verge of failing when I went to my oncologist. And that was like what happened from healthy to a week or two later. And I said, hey, I'm not big on chemo. I view it as, it's poison. It's very toxic. I would like to, heal my cancer holistically. And I've been doing a lot of research on that. Can you support me in that? And he said, Hal, I appreciate that you want to do that. But he said, you don't have a cancer that you don't have that luxury. You've got about a week to live if you don't start chemo. Maybe a few days. He said, look, a week ago you were healthy. Now your heart, lung, and kidney is all on the verge of failing. He said, this is one of the most aggressive, fast-acting cancers, and you literally have a few days, maybe a week. And I thought it was a scare tactic, right? I was like, like in my head, like kind of middle finger, like, oh, I don't, I said, give me 24 hours, let me go home and I'll find out the truth all from Google. And so I consulted Dr. Google, right? And basically found out that, he wasn't exaggerating. So I found out that was true. So I basically almost, against my will, like everything, my values, my beliefs, I had to go get chemo. It's the most intensive chemotherapy regimen, to my knowledge, that there is. And so that even made it harder. And it's a 20 to 30% survival rate. So I go, so you're going to put this poison in me, and I have a 20 to 30% chance of surviving, and the side effects on one of the chemos in particular, so I had acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The side effect may cause leukemia. And so what I ended up doing, because I felt like my hand was kind of, arm was forced, I had to do the chemo. So here's what I did though, and I think this is what not only saved my life, and the chemo, I believe, definitely saved my life, but my symptoms, and it was hard, but I had an easier time than a lot of people that were getting 1 hour of chemo a month when I was getting, 70 or 80 or 100, whatever it was. And is what I did is I did everything holistically that I would do if I weren't doing chemotherapy. So, and I didn't, and I'd never found anyone that really had done that. It was usually either or. But so I did coffee enemas, right? There's no effort more extraordinary than, sticking a tube in your butt. I took like 70 supplements a day. I did, my diet was already on point. So I just kind of, kept added juicing and some other things. I did ozone saunas. I did acupuncture. I mean, you name it, right? I did everything I could, and I combined the two. And like when I asked my oncologist, hey, chemo is really toxic to your liver, and some people get a lot of disease from that. What should I do to detox? And he'd be like, we give you a saline flush, it's fine, right? So the medical community, right, they don't learn anything except what's in the textbook that they go to school for. And so for me, I did I Googled how to detox your liver, right? So I was taking milk thistle to detox my liver, and the coffee enemas to detox my liver, and and all of these things. So I just wanted to share that because, like you said, people watching might have cancer or know someone that does. Anyway, so sorry I got far down the rabbit hole.
Really interesting. And another thing along those lines that I want to talk about is, you said that obviously you kept your mindset the way that you've always kept your mind.
Okay, I think I'm gonna pause it right there because we're at like 27 minutes, and then I guess like 10 minutes to talk. And I think it might be a good stopping point before we get to like the next little topic part there. Okay, I'm gonna pop over here because I saw a couple of chats. Got up before your alarm to me, killing it. That's exciting. That's a good day. Yeah, Kristen, I see a hand up. I think it.
Sorry, I'm like coffee jittery. It was a long night for me. So it's really interesting that he talks about like living fear-based life, because literally Teddy and I were having that conversation about the coronavirus in our lives today. And what do we do and what do we not do? And, because I have Crohn's, so I'm super high risk. Your majority of your digestive tract is your immune system, and mine's 6 inches of it is gone on top of everything else. So in talking about that, also based on what he said about his chemo, literally a lot of doctors are textbook like that. When I left the hospital, I was like, what kind of diet restrictions do I need to have? What do I need to do to make myself better? Oh no, you're fine. It's my intestines. Like, what do you mean? Yes, it's raining. So, but Teddy and I were talking about, like raising Annie and like not letting her like live a fear-based life. It's okay to fall. It's okay to do this. And it was like, he was like, I'm not gonna wake up every morning and let you be afraid to walk outside because you could potentially get sick. You're sick. That's the reality of the situation. He was like, so we're gonna go to the racetrack and we're gonna enjoy ourselves. And that doesn't mean we're gonna put you in the middle of the mosh pit, but you're still gonna be able to go. And it's just like, okay, but to how much? Because I was like, well, you don't, I kind of brought it up like, well, you don't care that I have Crohn's or anything like that. And he was like, it's not that. He was like, but I'm not going to not allow you to live your life.
Right. Dude, I love that. And it is really kind of interesting of like finding that balance between like understanding that there is a issue, right? Like there are sicknesses out there. There are things that we have to be precautious about. But when it comes down to like controlling your life, I'm not in on it either. Like, I'm sorry. I can't. Like, I'm going to take precautions. I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to, stay a little bit more distant. I'm going to do everything that like I've been told to do and, and kind of feel out situations and stuff. But like, yeah, it's like, when we live out of fear, what kind of life does that create for us? And it usually not a great one, right? Like you're not going to be like, oh my God, I live such a great life over here in all my fear, right? My fear has just developed this amazing life for me. Oh, thank you, fear, right? Like you don't hear people say that, right? You don't hear people say, oh my gosh, I created this amazing business based off of fear, and I just didn't go for a single goal, and gosh, my life is just amazing. You don't hear that, right? Most people and most of their stories started, you know what? Regardless of that fear, regardless of that situation, regardless of all of these odds against me, I prevailed. I rose above. I pushed through. that's where the story comes from. And I think we have to use that as inspiration and clues to success, right? Like that to me is like the breadcrumbs from Hansel and Gretel. It's like, follow the freaking breadcrumbs. Don't try to make your own path. Like there's those are there for a reason. Listen to them and understand them and try to follow them, because what's your alternative? That's what I always think. That's what I always remind myself. And just like he said, is like, can't change it. Can't change the coronavirus, right? Can't change it. So now what? Now what? And like, I think that's just like what we have to ask ourselves. I actually love that little 5-minute rule too. Like, all right, take your little pity party, enjoy your 5 minutes, and then wipe those tears, straighten that face, and get back in the freaking arena, right? Like, to me, it's like, all right, you need a second, that's fine. You take your second, you take your little bitch fest, and then you get right back on the horse and you keep going, right? I love that, because there are some times where I'm like, man, I just need to vent this out of my head. It's probably not even really how I really feel, but sometimes I just need to purge these words and these thoughts from my head. And usually once I say them out loud, I go, this isn't even really how I feel. Or wow, once I said that out loud, it sounded so silly. Or, you know, it's like typically once I actually like up here, man, I can like crank out some crazy thoughts, right? But the moment they actually, come out of my mouth and I like say them, I'm like, oh, I probably didn't even need to say that. It's like, can I take those back? Because they were so pointless, but also very crucial for me to understand what they sounded like being said out loud, right? Like sometimes I really did need to hear what that sounded like coming out of my mouth to be like, ooh, that's not me. That doesn't sound like the Jen I'm trying to be, right? Like I'm not perfect, but as I continue to put those things out there, I learn to understand what is aligning with myself and what's not, right? Like, and sometimes you have to say that stuff out loud. You'd be like, wow, that may have been the way that Jen used to live, but I'm no longer going to allow myself to talk to myself like that, right? Maybe it's after you even said it. And so I really like him. I think that I love the emotional invincibility. It kind of is like really cool to think of yourself as like, nothing can touch me. Like, can't touch this. You know, like that's how I feel, is like, wow, like how cool is it to think that like emotionally I have full control, absolutely full control. And anytime I think that I don't, I do. Anytime that I think I am acting on impulse or on autopilot, or, oh, this is just the way I react, or, oh, well, how am I supposed to react? This is what you did, right? But actually, we have absolute, complete control over all of everything that comes from us. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to be perfect and always like channeling it correctly, right? Like there's still going to be times that I lash out. There's still going to be times that I probably like don't say the right thing, or I live in fear, or, you know, those things are going to come through. But I think the more that we can be aware of them, the quicker we can catch them, right? Like maybe I said one thing instead of 5 things. That's progress, right? Like maybe I stopped. What'd you say, Kristen?
I think the 5 minutes, like as a mom too, like sometimes I don't sit back and let Annie have her tantrums because she's so far advanced for a 3-year-old, and I have to set myself back and remember that she's 3. So reminding myself to give myself that 5 minutes will help me as a mom to remember that maybe she needs her 5 minutes too.
Yeah, dude, for sure. Like there's times like where like Derek and I like we're literally arguing like grown adults, and I'm like, I have to remind myself, I'm like, you're 5, man. I was like, go to your room. Like I can't even do this right now with you because Like I'm literally having a full like grown up argument with you and you are 5. Like I was just like, and I'll send him to his room and he like freaks out. He's like, no, I don't want to go to my room. I'm like, dude, it's not a punishment. It's actually just a little break. It's just a little break for you to collect your thoughts and for me to collect my thoughts. And then we can come back and talk. Like, it's not even a punishment. It's not, I'm going to go to my room too. And I'll tell him, I'll be like, I'm going to go to my room too. And I'll go and sit in my bathroom for 5 minutes. And he goes and sits in his room for 5 minutes. And we come back out. And then it's like, how do you feel now? And he'll be like, I feel better. And we'll apologize and say, you know, sorry or whatever, or talk about the situation. But it's like, yeah, like that 5 minutes, it's like, it's not a punishment, right? It's a chance for you to like catch up with your thoughts is how I think too, is like, I need to take 5 minutes to maybe vent to myself in the bathroom or cry in the bathroom. And then I can usually pull myself together pretty quickly after that, you know? And I love that too. I think that's like so important to remind us like of our kids too. Like, hey, like, and I think I love that I tell Derek it's not a punishment. Like you're going to your room. It's not necessarily like a bad thing. Like you just need to collect your thoughts and I need to collect mine. And then we can come back and talk like we respect each other, right? Like not like we're sitting here and just lashing out at each other, because typically what we're usually arguing about is nothing that needs to be figured out within that 5 minutes, right? Like anything that him and I are like arguing about is like, we could deal with this in 5 minutes, right? Or I'm like, go to your room for 5 minutes so I can make you some food. So when you come back out, you can just eat. So that way you're not such like a hangry child. Like, because that's usually what it is too. Is like, I'm like, oh, you're tired or you need to take a nap or you need to eat something, you know, it's like those kind of things. And so I think that's like very, very like something that we can tuck in our little pocket, right? Tuck that in your little saddlebag of ideas for later on. Or even, you guys, even like sometimes Mike and I have to do that. Like, I'll be like, listen, if we're arguing or something's getting heated and I'm like, why is this going this way? And I'll be like, you know what? I'm just going to step away from this conversation because I'm already starting to feel anxiety come up in my body that I don't want to feel. And I was like, and I just need like a few moments to like collect my thoughts and then we'll come back and talk about it. And Mike never really understood that process. Like when we first got together, he was like, no, we need to fix this right now. We're here. Let's talk about it. And I was like, dude, I need like an hour. I was like, I need some time. I need some space. Like, I need to think. I want to calm down. And like, he didn't ever really understand that. So he would like push and push and push and be like, hey, no, let's talk. And I would be like, you don't want to hear a word I have to say right now because it's going to come out so sharp. It's going to come out so wrong. It's going to come out so, it's not going to be what I really want to say, right? Like, or it is, but it's going to be in a way that is dysfunctional, you know? So I'm like, I need to go collect my thoughts and then we can come back and talk, because honestly, anything we're talking about right now is not going to be any different 5 minutes from now, right? Like I can collect my thoughts and we can come back and talk about this and it's probably not going to change, right? Like the time frame is not going to change. Like that our conversation is going to be totally different if we would have had it in the beginning or if we waited 5 minutes and calmed down. So I love that. I'm going to read over here. This is what we are teaching our students. Leader in me. We are in control of our own weather. Oh, I love that. We are in control of our own weather. I love that, Nicole. It's like, do you want a storm cloud or do you want a pretty rainbow? Which one you want over your head? Like, right? Like, do you have a pretty rainbow over your head or do you got a storm cloud? Like, that's actually a really good thing. Like, so Derek, I've told you guys about how we reference anger. And it's from Inside Out. So Inside Out, the movie where she keeps sadness in the circle, she like draws a circle and she's like, keep all the sadness in your circle. And so Derek and I always talk about our anger. And like, just even like yesterday, I was getting like frustrated with something and he goes, Mom, he goes, why are you letting your anger out of its circle? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, but anger better get back in their freaking circle, right? And he was just like, yes, like, and so we kind of reference that as like just a way to like recognize emotions, you know, like the fact that he can recognize an emotion in me that is unnormal, you know, because I'm not normally an angry person. And so he can recognize that emotion, which is something that I don't know if when we were kids, if we ever recognized things like that. I don't know if anybody ever helped us recognize emotions. And had somebody really taken the time to teach me as a young child about what my emotions are, wow, maybe I could have dealt with some things as an adult a little bit better, right? And I think that comes from just my mom and dad never did personal development. Like, that's comical to even try to say, right? Like, my parents were never like, oh, I've been reading this self-help book. You know, like, nobody went to the self-help section back in like the 90s or 80s, okay? Like, you were like shunned. Like, if you were ever in that part of like Barnes and Nobles or whatever, like, you were weird. It was never like something that people yearned for, you know? And so it's just interesting to think about like that generation teaching us, but they know nothing about their own emotions. And that's probably generations of passed on from generations and generations. And so I think that we really are the cycle breakers, right? Like, whether you're specifically my age, maybe you're a little younger, maybe you're a little older, but like our generation in general, I want to raise our kids differently. I want our kids to understand what it is to be angry, what it is to be joyful, and what brings them joy, what brings them anger, and analyze that stuff. And then how can we channel it correctly, you know? And I think that, guys, like, seriously, like, it comes from the hierarchy, right? If we can control our anger and our emotions and understand them, naturally the next generation is going to follow in that footsteps as well, right? They're not going to be like, no, I don't know about that, Mom. I'm not learning about my emotions. I prefer to live in fear and anger and blah, blah, blah. Like, Derek, as a 5-year-old, is not going to choose that, right? Like, he's going to choose pretty much whatever I line up for him. And so if I'm going to line up for him to understand his emotions and reference his emotions, he's going to grow up thinking everybody just regulates their emotions, right? And everybody's aware of their emotions, because I was the opposite. I grew up thinking, wow, everybody's just a freaking mess. Like, nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody has any control. That's what I grew up knowing, because that's what my dad was like that. My dad was a hothead. My dad was like a fast thinker. He was a quick-witted person, but like, he had no control over his emotions. Like, no control, right? And so that's what I've learned. And so I'm trying to be that cycle breaker so we can somehow maybe heal humanity from the inside out, right? And maybe it starts right here. But imagine all of us, so there's, 15 girls on here right now. Okay, so we each have a kid, so that's 50 plus multiple kids, so that's 15 kids. And see, they all have kids, so then now you got 30. And so in a couple of generations, you guys, the amount of kids and generations that we could affect that are going to start to ripple out can be life-changing, world-changing, right? So like, if the cycle breaks with you, how long can that like continue to progress over generations? But it starts with us. It truly starts with us. Like, we have to be different than our generations before, because obviously what's happening is not working, right? Like, can we just all agree on that like, what's going on with like our fear-based world is disgusting. But that is a reflection of the mindset of our future, or of our older generations. They created that, and then they fed off of it, right? Because misery loves company. And so as soon as they got acknowledged for that fear base, and then it continued to fed into it, right? And they continued to feed it and feed it and feed it, and the beast just got larger and larger until somebody came along and said, can we like stop feeding this beast? Like, can we just stop doing that? Because it's just getting bigger And can we start like feeding this little scrawny little dog over here, right? Like this is like the different cycle breaker. And that's where we're at, okay? Stop feeding this ginormous beast of fear because it's got enough food, right? It is living in gluttony wholeheartedly. Leave them and let's step over here, okay? Because our future generation relies on us to be different. And I want to hear someday, 20 years from now, one of your kids is like a personal development speaker, all because mom showed him what personal development was when he was 5 years old. Because he would sit and listen to his mom talk to all these girls about all this personal development from the other room, and he just was surrounded by it. And so now, all of a sudden, my son at 25 is some personal development speaker because he had been around it all of his life. Now, who knows? Maybe Derek's going to be a gang member. I don't freaking know. But, like, I hope not, you know? Like, who knows where life is going to take us? But in my hopes and in my dreams and in my, you know, raising him, I hope that he's going to be a good person in society. But I have to be a good person in society, right? Like, I hope Derek is kind to himself in his head. But the only way he's going to be kind to himself in his head is if I'm kind to myself in my head, right? That's what it boils down to. And so I saw over here also, Amanda, did you guys see that new Mr. Rogers movie? It's so cute with Tom Hanks. Such a cute movie. I cried like crazy on it. But it's a very cute movie if you guys get a chance to check it out. I love Mr. Rogers. Like, he was like definitely my youth. And then to even see the movie on him about how he was, it's really cool. It's very eye-opening to realize as well. You guys have to, yeah, it's on, I think I saw it. So we have like Amazon Prime, and then I think I get like Stars. I think it's on Stars for free. Or you could probably pay a couple bucks and like order it or something like that. But if you can get it, definitely get it. It's super cute. Not only because it brings back like so many memories from like youth, but it's just really cool to see the other side of it as well. And like behind the scenes of Mr. Rogers, because he like truly was like just that guy. Like, and I love the way they talked about how he made every single person feel like they were the only person in the room. And like, I love that about the movie. And I've like already even tried to, like Mike and I were talking about, how can I make anyone and everyone feel like they're the only person in the room? Or when they're having a conversation with me, I'm dead set on them. And I just think that's really cool. So I actually took that away from the movie as like a little like gem for myself of like, can I really, like, in my mind, I'm like, I want to Mr. Rogers that person. That's what I was thinking in my head is like, how can I Mr. Rogers this person? Of like, how can I make them feel so special in this moment that they just feel like they're the only person in my life, or that they just feel like they're the only person that I talked to today. And so I've just really started to try to like switch, even like when I'm messaging like girls, I'm like, okay, how can I be wholly into this message and messaging her back and giving her like a legit response, right? Not just like, yeah, and like blowing her off, right? Like, how can I be in this message and give her like the best possible response? And I just think about it like the Mr. Rogers. I just like want to Mr. Rogers the shit out of her, you know? Like, like, how can I just like make her feel like she's the only person I'm responding to right now? So I love that. Oh yeah, I do see that. By the way, Alicia Weaver, we did give you a little shout out this morning, but you weren't on here yet. So I want, hopefully you hear this. We are super excited about your diamond status. Woo, woo. I will also talk about it on the team call on Thursday, because normally, you guys, the thing is normally they don't register those things until the cycle of the week. And so I was waiting till Thursday, but her and I both like, I literally messaged her yesterday and I was like, go on your coach office. I was like, what does it say? And she's like, it still says Emerald. I was like, okay. Because because in my office, it was saying diamond. So I was like, okay. And then this morning, she's like, it's a diamond. I was like, I know. We were so excited. Like, it's so hard to like freak out on Messenger, but I love the little gifts. They always like kind of help because, you know, you like putting like all the little like freaking out people. So Alicia, we appreciate you so much, girl. Thank you so much for all the hard work you've been doing as well. And let's keep going. Let's on to the next. All right, ladies, hopefully we're going to finish the Miracle Mornings video tomorrow. And then also I'm going to look up the list of what I think he said that there's like 6 things that he has on his Miracle Mornings list. It's like journaling, gratitude, working out. I'm going to look up the actual list and we'll kind of go through those tomorrow. So maybe we can start really creating a morning routine that is beneficial to us, okay? Or at least start implementing some of the things that he's talking about into our morning routine. So we'll continue talking about morning routines tomorrow. And hopefully you guys got a little inspiration from how, man, it's hard to feel bad about your life when you look at his, right? Like, can you really be like, poor me, when you're like, oh my God, he was like happy through cancer? I'm sorry, what? Like, how do you do that? You know, but it's like, wow, my life's not so bad when you realize other people are dealing with things like that, you know, and getting through it and succeeding and still being like, you know, doing what he's doing. So definitely some motivation for me. Oh, you already went ahead and did it. Okay, silence. Can you send that to me so I don't have to write it down real quick? Yes, Corey, I was actually thinking about you while we were watching this video. I was like, hopefully maybe it'll give her like the strength to get through the hospital visit and get home and everything like that. I was like, oh, this might be perfect for you. So maybe this video was like directly for you. Who knows? All right, ladies, I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you guys so much for coming. Tomorrow we'll finish up morning Miracle Mornings, and then Thursday will be music. Friday we have that 6:30 a.m. workout. But also today, you guys, Summit starts. So at 2 o'clock today, we will have Trent Shelton as a speaker. So I'll be doing like a Zoom if you guys want to join. And then we'll just like watch it together and we can chat during it as well. It'll be probably a little bit more casual, to be honest, you know. But come listen. If not, I believe they will have a recording that you can catch as well. But I will be here at 2 o'clock. All righty? All right, ladies, have a fabulous day. Thank you guys for coming. I always appreciate it. Have a good day, okay? Bye.